Ade. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm really well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm super excited to chat with you because you've got this really cool business. Tell me about Nubian Skin.
So Nubian Skin is a pretty simple concept. I came up with the idea in 2011 because I could never find nude lingerie or hosiery that matched my skin tone. So if I walked into a shop and asked for something nude, I was given something, but it wasn't anywhere close to being my nude. And so that was when I actually came up with the idea to start a business which provided women of color with that. And then fast forward several years, we launched in October 2014, and we've kind of been doing what we say on the tin ever since. It's sort of skin tone nude for women of color.
That's awesome. Now, did you have a background in the fashion industry or anything before you got started?
No, not at all. Actually, I was really corporate. So I'd worked in finance for years, and I'd taken a break and done some consulting, management consulting, and I hated it so much.
Okay.
But the good thing was, I think just being so unhappy in a job gave me that impetus to be like, what do I really want to do? And that's when I came up with the idea for Nubian Skin. And so there were a few years in between where I was still working. I went back into finance. But yeah, so no, I didn't have a fashion background at all.
So, what is the specific problem that you solve for the people you serve? You kind of alluded to it already, but how would you describe it?
I think it was just a matter of, a lot of people ask me, they're like, why didn't that exist before? And the honest answer is, I don't know. But I think a lot of times, larger companies are generally owned by people that don't look like you or me. And so, and nude is the most popular color probably in lingerie.
Right.
And so it sells well, and people are like, great, this is wonderful. But unless you have the experience of saying, actually that nude doesn't work for me, then it would never sort of come to your mind that actually maybe there needs to be more than one nude.
Right.
And so yeah, that was it. That was the specific problem, is nude being defined as a one size fits all when it really doesn't.
Right. All nude is not created equal. Not at all. So, what made you decide that you were going to be the one? I mean, because going and having a problem that a lot of women experience is one thing. Actually, starting a company in a field where it's not your expertise is quite a different.
Um, well, I would say one of it was naivete. I didn't have any idea how hard it would be.
Hmm.
But also, I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So both my parents were entrepreneurs. It's sort of, is something that I've always wanted to do. I just didn't know what. And I'd actually always wanted it to be in fashion,
Okay.
but I just didn't really know how or why. I knew it wasn't going to be, like a major, and it wasn't going to be like Dior or anything like that, because that wasn't my technical background, but I did want it to be in fashion. And so when the idea popped into my head, I thought, you know what, actually, this is the one that sticks. This one makes sense because I know I'm not the only person with this problem.
Right. Now, how long did it take from the time that you had the idea until you actually launched your first product?
Yeah, so I remember having the idea. It was spring 2011, and then at the end of that year, I changed jobs because I knew I would need capital, and so I needed to make a lot more money than I was making at the time. And so I went back into finance because that was my background, and I knew I could save quite a bit in that kind of job. And so I did that for 3 years, and then started actively working on the company. It was May 2013.
Okay.
And so then we actually launched a year and a half later in October 2014.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a good 3.5 years.
Wow, but that's a very smart strategy to make sure that you're able to go through it methodically. So, very cool. All right, well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk more about your experiences as an
Yes.
entrepreneur. So, tell me,
Mhm.
what was the biggest barrier in mindset that you had to deal with that might have limited your success a little bit? And how did you overcome it?
Well, I was super, super excited about the idea, but as I said, I'd gone back into finance and it was a very demanding job. Now, I made the wonderful mistake of telling my mum about the idea. My mum was like, where are my tights? Where are my tights? Where are my tights? Where are my tights? And I was like, I'm working, I'm really busy. And she was like, you're not going to do this. You told me you were going to do this. I want my tights. And so part of it was me just getting distracted with daily life.
Right.
Um, and just being busy. And I remember I'd gone to New York for a summer and spent it with a friend, and I shared the idea with her. And a year later, that was May 2013, she sent me a birthday card. So it arrived a little bit late.
Okay.
And on the front, it said, "It's time to start living the life you've always imagined." And on the inside was just this lovely story about how she thought the idea was amazing, and she thought that, it was going to be super successful. And literally the next day, I registered the company and the trademarks, and just like was go, go, go from there. So it was a little bit of me being like, oh, I'm too busy right now. Like, yeah, I want to do it, I'll get to it. But just getting distracted with life. And I think my mother pushing and this friend's card really kind of just like, woke me up, and I was like, right, now I need to do this. And once I started, I just couldn't stop. I was so excited.
Oh, that's super cool. All right. So tell me about the habits that you have. Is there any one habit or suite of habits that allows you to get everything done? Because I imagine this is a fast-moving business for you.
Yeah, so my to-do list is never done. So there's always like stuff that comes on, which can be a bit frustrating just from, because when you sort of see the list growing and growing and growing. However, I do love a to-do list because there is something incredibly powering about ticking things off,
Yes.
as and when. But as far as habits, if I'm 100% honest, I'm still developing them. One of the things that has actually really helped the past few months has been, because there's so many different areas, we're a tiny, tiny team. So it's like, one day I might be doing bookkeeping, another day I might be doing product development, another day I might be chasing up stockists, et cetera, et cetera. So I started making a list of each day saying this will be my priority.
Okay.
So like if it's on Mondays, priority might be product development. And so I'll make sure that I get everything on my product development list done, and then I can focus on everything else.
Okay.
And that just helps me keep a little bit sane, because when you have so much to do, it can be kind of paralyzing, not knowing where to start.
Right, and that task switching actually causes you to lose a lot more time whenever you're doing a bunch of different things at once. Now, you mentioned that you do have a team. At what point did you bring on team members? Because I'm sure that helps you expand your reach, but I think a lot of times people are a little nervous about when they should bring on people to help them do what they need to do.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, we are tiny. There's only two of us who are full-time, and we have a lovely intern. And I actually so when I started working on the company, I was still working full-time. And so it was just me. And then right when we launched, I think about a month before we launched officially, actually it was even less than that, it was about 2 weeks before we launched officially, I hired somebody because I was still working.
Okay.
In finance, and so I knew that I would need somebody to help with everything.
Right.
Because we'd had a campaign which had gone viral, and I'd been managing it, and my sister had been helping me, but I knew that actually that wasn't sustainable.
Right.
And so I hired somebody in then as an intern, and then about 6 months after, I hired somebody full-time to come on, to actually help with everything.
All right, very good. All right, so how do you stay in tune to the needs of your customers? I know you started it because you had the specific problem, so you are your ideal customer, but is there things that you need to do to sort of stay connected to them on an ongoing basis so you're able to serve those folks who might even have a little bit of a slightly different need than you do?
Absolutely. I mean, social media has been fantastic for us. I mean, number one, the campaign, just getting it out there, social media was amazing for that. But it's also great because you get direct feedback, whether that's positive or negative, from your customers.
Okay.
And that was actually something which really influenced our product development with sizing, for instance. I'm really petite. My sister's the opposite. She's got like massive, massive boobs. I don't know how it happened, but I didn't get anything and she got loads. But a lot of customers were saying, actually we have fuller bust, or we've got curvier figures. We really do need, those sizing. And so that's been something that we've been actively working on.
Okay.
And we had the More Sizes campaign, which we ran, which was a survey to get feedback. And we're pretty responsive on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also on email. We sort of really encourage people to send us emails with their thoughts or what they need, because it helps us grow as a company.
Absolutely. Now, outside of your customers, I imagine within this industry, the relationships that you have with other, like you said, stockists and other just sort of industry players is important. How do you make sure that you cultivate those relationships with people who aren't necessarily your customers but are still very important to your business?
Yeah, so we go to trade shows, we do the winter shows and we do the summer shows. And those are incredibly helpful because you're meeting fellow entrepreneurs, which is great, but also you're meeting retailers who, give you feedback on the product that they may be stocking, or
Okay.
their customers who, have certain needs and desires. And so that's just really, really helpful information for us to get, as well as just industry players like bloggers or people who write about the industry, because they see certain trends as well. So it's always a really good opportunity to hear from those different people.
Okay. What would you say is your superpower?
Goodness. I would say probably an ability to just deal with a lot of failure and keep going. I don't know how I've done it, but every day you've got a high and then you have a low because something hasn't gone right, or
Right.
you're like, oh, I should have done that. And just sort of like, be like, oh, I wish I'd done this, but I hadn't, or I wish this happened and it doesn't. But sort of being like, right, well, got to keep going. So
Right.
stop feeling sorry for ourselves and carry on.
No, that's a good point because I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we just avoid failure, but it's such a part of the growing process. Now, you had a corporate background, and that's my background as well. And in corporate, I my observations is that failure isn't something that's really acceptable. So, was that something that was a difficult process for you to get used to it, sort of get more comfortable with it, given what your background was?
Oh, hugely, hugely. Because I mean, I think a lot of times, especially, I guess, my background, you're so used to like things working and
Uh-huh.
things going the way you want them to,
Right.
and being very much in control. And when you start a business, you realize how much you don't have control over. And also you feel it so much more because it's your baby. It's something that you've worked on, you've poured your soul into. And so if somebody makes a criticism, you take that personally. And
Right.
that's been something that I've had to learn to separate, being like, this is about the company, it's not about you. So that's been a big thing that I've had to get used to. But yeah, just generally, it's so different. I think as an entrepreneur, until you do it, you don't realize how much you feel everything.
Absolutely. So, what do you do in terms of trying to create an environment that creates loyalty for your customers, that earns the loyalty that keeps them coming back? I know you mentioned that you're in constant contact with them on social media and you encourage the feedback, but are there other specific things that you do or to foster that level of feeling that makes them say, I belong here, I want to come back, I want to use this product, for all time?
Yeah. Well, I certainly hope so. Otherwise, I'm doing something terribly wrong. But I think it's also just sort of being true to who we are. I think it's important to, one, show appreciation to the people who got you there, and be respectful of them as well. So we think we try to do that in the way that the models we choose and the way that we portray women of color. That's really important to me. It was very important when I started that I wanted women of color portrayed a certain way so people could look at it and say, actually, I recognize myself in that.
Right.
And continue to do that, and also just be grateful, because I think sometimes if you have a little bit of success, you can kind of be like, great, like I accomplished this, when I know 100% that our business is built off the back of women of color, specifically Black women, because I mean, they and we posted our images and made our campaign go viral. And if that hadn't happened, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Got it. All right. Now, what would you say are your three keys to success?
Maybe when I figure it out, I'll tell you. What I will say, the three things, it really is try, and try again,
Okay.
because I'm not there yet, and working very hard to try and be there, and I think that's what it boils down to, is literally just continually trying.
Right. Now, one of the things that I know entrepreneurs struggle with quite a bit is finding some sort of balance between their work and their life, especially in those early years when they're really working hard to get it off the ground. Is this something that you feel that you've got a handle on, or is it something that's still a good work in progress for you?
For me, it's definitely a work in progress. I think a lot of times people are very concerned about, but how do I find balance? And I can only speak from my experience.
Hmm.
And I tell them, especially at the beginning, there isn't. I mean, there just isn't. That's kind of how it is. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. I do think it's important to find coping mechanisms
Right.
to deal with that. But, there will never, the beginning is, it's hard, like we're still a super young company. We haven't been trading for 3 years yet.
Hmm.
And it is definitely easier now that I've got help, and more balanced, but I'm still not there yet on having a fully balanced. But I do try and take care of myself a little bit better. Also, maybe it's just because I'm a bit older. I think once I crossed the 30 threshold, my body was like, no, actually, you're just not going to be able to do that anymore.
Your body has a way of telling you slow down whenever it wants you to do
Exactly.
that, right? All right. So, what can we expect to see from you in the future?
So one of the things that we've been actively working on, and I think I alluded to it earlier, was expanding our size range. So we came out with the Curve collection, and then we went up to 40 backs. But we are actively working on our fuller bust, which I'm so excited about, especially because my sister is like, "I will kill you if you don't get this out." um, so that's coming out in the next few months, and I'm ecstatic about that because we've had, as I said, so much support from all these amazing women. And a lot of them are women who maybe can't fit into our products right now. Maybe they're like, an F cup. And we currently only go up to double D, but they're literally there being like, you guys are amazing. We're championing you. We're waiting with like open wallets till you have
Right.
it. And then that's such a lovely feeling to have that support. So we're super excited to be able to give that to people.
Very good. Very good. And where can people find you?
So nubianskin.com, that's our website, and that has our entire collection. And on our website, we also have a list of stockists which carry our products.
Very good. All right. Well, Ade, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for stopping by. Um,
Oh, thank you for having me.
my pleasure. Before they do let you go, I have one other question, and that's to deliver a line from a movie that speaks to you and explain why you chose that one.
Goodness. Oh, that's gonna take me a while. Trying to think of movies that speak to me. I feel like I just watched really silly ones.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
A line from a movie that speaks to me. Well, you know what? And I can't remember it exactly, but
Okay.
I recently watched Hidden Figures,
Okay.
and I love that film also because we supplied the tights, so I know
Awesome.
Taraji and the other leading ladies wore our tights in that film. But it wasn't a line, but it was when she gets the book. I don't know if you've seen it,
Yes.
but she gets the book on basically how to code, or like what, basically learning about operating computer systems.
Right.
And the thing that I loved was when she gets that and then she starts to teach the other girls, because she's like, somebody's going to need to, figure out how to use these computers, so we're going to make ourselves useful. And that to me just epitomized being an amazing leader. Number one, educating yourself so that you're relevant, but then also making sure that the people that you came up with are relevant too. That was just like phenomenal.
Yeah, there were so many wonderful things about that movie. I loved it. But yeah, that was a great scene too. All right. Thank you again, Ade. This has been fantastic.
Well, thank you, Celia, and have a lovely day.
You too.